And now I'm very, very pleased to announce our next guest. We all know that LGBT activism, and particularly LGBT workplace inclusion, is never something to be done in isolation. We as an organization are actually lucky, very lucky and proud to be based in a country that supports our efforts on many levels, domestically and internationally. And therefore, I'm pleased to introduce a person who, for many people, maybe personifies the outward-looking nature of this country, Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Frans Timmermans.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and congratulations on the benchmark. Really great thing to have in any organisation, I think. And thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. This is a subject that is very close at heart. I need your help in finding new ways of promoting LGBT rights. I need your help in fighting resistance in any society against this struggle, which I think is an epic struggle, but also the right cause to be on the right side of. I have to say that, you know, sometimes we're not even aware of things we can do ourselves. We found out very, very recently that my own organisation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was not part of the work of the Workplace Pride, and we have decided to become part of the Workplace Pride. So this is something. And you people are the first to know, because this is something we have just decided right now. You know, this is, I have to tell you why this is so important to me. I have seen, in the course of my life, many prejudices. That's the advantage of being the son of a diplomat. You see, you learn very early on what your own prejudices are, because you're confronted with a different culture where they have different prejudices. And being who I am, with my background and my generation, you know, being unprejudiced towards the LGBT community is not something that I was born with. It is something I had to learn. And it is an experience I don't want my children to repeat. So I think that my children will not have had to break through that experience themselves, because they have been brought up by parents who taught them to see this as a natural development. I also see this in a brighter scope. We had the bright scope of seeing young and new people standing up for these rights. I was so amazed last week in London, where we had a conference organised by William Hague, and of course everybody wanted to go because Angelina Jolie participated, on the fight against sexual violence against women. But being there at that conference, you're so much aware of the fact that people who come there want to fight abuse of power, because this has everything to do with the abuse of power. So sexual violence as a tool against women is intertwined with discrimination of women and the LGBT community, is intertwined with gay bashing, is intertwined with the feeling that you need to show your superiority by humiliating a whole community, etc. So, you know, and one of the instruments we have developed in the Netherlands, and I say this very specifically because I see a general in the front row, is to create larger awareness in our armed forces, in our ministries, of the need to be very much aware of this and to fight the good fight on this. And one of the ways to do this is to create better job opportunities for people, for women and for LGBT, clearly pronounced, open LGBT, not feeling the need to stay in the closet people. I think this is very important in any organisation. And I said at the conference, I am looking forward for the day that we are no longer surprised to see a woman in a general's uniform. We need the day that this is the average thing, and that we admire anybody in a uniform, whether it's a man or a woman. And this is everything to do with emancipation. This is the struggle we need to fight. And that's why having attention for these issues at the workplace is of extreme importance. And that's why any organization that feels the responsibility to offer a relaxing workspace or to offer the opportunity for debate at the workplace for the LGBT community should be commended. Not just because it's the right thing to do, not just because it's a moral thing to do. I think it's good for business. It's good for business because your customers like it. It's good for business because you have a better atmosphere at the office. It's good for business because it's nice to be leading on moral issues. And as a politician, I have to say, especially in the Netherlands and perhaps in Europe, we've sort of put morality apart from politics, because politics today, since we are extremely unpopular with the population, we try and convince the population by statistics, by showing measures that work, by showing that unemployment is going down, that profits are going up, etc., which is all of the extreme, which is all of extreme importance. But I think we have neglected our duty as leaders to lead in moral issues. And one of the moral issues I believe we should be leading in the Netherlands and worldwide is the promotion of LGBT rights. And I have seen some amazing results in that area the last 10 to 15 years. I remember as a very young kid, I was inspired by the revolution going on in Spain when Spain was getting rid of its fascist past. And I was 15 years old and I went to Spain to work at a farm. And one of the strongest memories I have of that country at the time is that people were actually almost starving, really almost starving, and eating oranges because that's what they were harvesting and being very sick. I was very sick as well of eating too many oranges. But I also noticed there that domestic violence was endemic. You know, the only way a man could manage his family was by hitting his wife and his children constantly. That was sort of a cultural thing, and I was told, you know, I was shocked by this. Well, this is Spain, this is how we do business here. And especially if you look at the position, not just of women, of gays. I mean, you couldn't even mention the word. It would be, the God's wrath would come down on you immediately if you even mentioned the word. Now look at Spain. Look at the progress Spain has made in terms of women's rights. I think Spain's doing better than the Netherlands today in this area, especially in terms of salaries. We still have a long way to go, unfortunately, there. Look at gays' rights. Would anybody have believed 20 years ago that there would be gay marriage in Spain? I think no one would have believed that. Another example, even more recent. Look at Poland. Poland is one of my pet projects because, you know, everybody is always complaining in the Netherlands about Polish workers, etc. But look at the miracle created in Poland since the end of the European divide. Look at this nation that was under dictatorship for so many years and thought that the only way they could find liberty is by embracing Catholic traditionalism, including this idea, which I, as a Roman Catholic, say is nonsensical, of being anti-gay because you're Catholic. Look at what's happened. Look at the Polish parliament. You have Palikot in Polish parliament today. You have an open discussion about gay rights. You have an open attitude of the younger generation against the gay community in Poland. These are tremendous successes, and sometimes we need to be more aware of these successes and not just take pictures of the situation, but look at the film during the years. And I think that these two countries, to me, are an inspiration as what we can do, what we can achieve. Gay prides, wow, they have done so much good in breaking through certain attitudes. And sometimes it is difficult to organize them. Sometimes in Petersburg and elsewhere, now I have a whole long debate with my colleagues in Serbia, and again, they haven't found another excuse why they can't organize it this year because of the floods, etc. But we're going to get there. We are going to get there step by step. And now the flip side of this development. The flip side is that because this is going so quickly, resistance against it is also increasing. And that's what you get when you create friction, you create heat, and you create a reaction. I've lived in Russia for 3.5 years. In those days, the relationship with gays was sort of comparable to the relationship with gays in this country in the 1960s. You know, do what you like, just don't tell me about it. That sort of was the attitude in Russia. And I think by and large, in the Russian population, that today is still the attitude. But in this process of trying to find a national identity post-communism, a national identity post-Soviet Union, President Putin has looked for allies. And the ally that will help him create a Russian soul or Russian identity is the Orthodox Church. And the price he paid to the Orthodox Church is to adopt the Orthodox Church leadership's agenda of anti-gay positions. That's how these laws came about. And I think we should be very vocal about this, and we should not think that we can take it off the table immediately, but we should mobilize resistance against that development, because it is not linked to the Russian culture. It is not necessary, as I say, as a Christian myself, to be a believer and therefore also to be anti-gay rights. And I think this is something, if it can happen in Spain, if it can happen in Poland, it can also happen in Russia if we stick to our guns and if we continue with our points, if we raise the issue every time. And I know whenever I raise it with Sergei Lavrov, he's insulted, but I continue doing this. And I did this with a very dear friend who's now left office, which is Guido Westerwelle. And I want to tell you something that we experienced in a meeting in Brussels. We had a meeting with Sergei Lavrov, and he took the floor and he said, you know, he's got this trick that one could call whataboutism. You know, whenever you raise an issue with him, he would raise another issue. What about all these drug addicts in the Netherlands? What about this? What about that? So what he did, and I shall never forget this, what he did is said, well, you know, gay rights, I have nothing against gays. Some of my best friends know a gay person. You know, that's sort of the attitude he takes. And he said, and one of my friends, I even went to a party of his, he's a belly dancer. What do you want more? You know, that's the level of, but then he said, we're not going to let you force gay marriage on us. We're not going to let you force gay prides on us. Look at what happens in France when you try and force gay marriage on people. We don't want that. And my point was, at that moment, we're not asking you to adopt gay marriage. Not today. We're not asking you to hold a gay pride on your own tomorrow. We're asking you to give everyone the same human rights, regardless of the choice they make in their lives, regardless of their identity. That's the only thing we ask of you. And you're compelled to do this because of the international obligations you went into. And then Guido took the floor. And I shall never forget this, that's why I want to tell you. And he said, dear Sergei, we're good friends, we work together very well. And he said, if this attitude of yours would still reign in Germany, I today would not be a foreign minister married to a man in Germany. And he got a full round of applause of all the ministers present. And this was, you could see with Sergei Lavrov, that really shamed him because it made it very personal. And then he started, you know, finding excuses that he didn't meant it that way and he had nothing against gays, etc. But this is the thing we need to do. These are the moments we need to take. And sometimes it is a confrontation. And we can't think that we can reach results within a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But we need to continue doing this consistently without being insulting, but sticking to our guns and being very clear of why this to us is important. Another big challenge I see for all of us is Africa. Here again, you see that there is a backlash in many African countries based on the fact that they say these movements for gay rights is a new form of European imperialism. Now, the irony of the thing is that before the Europeans arrived in Africa, there was no inhibition whatsoever about gay love, nothing. You know, the homophobia was something that was introduced by priests and other preachers that came from Europe and went to Africa. So the irony of this is that they are telling us not to talk about gay rights because that's Western imperialism, where their homophobia is something that was created by Europeans in their minds. But whatever the background, we have a problem. And so when we really want to solve this issue long term, we need to take this problem off the table, that they can use it, they can instrumentalize this when we are seen as Europeans coming there telling them what they need to do. So an innovation I'm introducing in our policy is to create trilateral cooperation. So I'm looking for African countries with a different position on this issue, and I'm asking them to work together with us the way they want to work, not the way we want to work, with us. We will provide the expertise, we will provide the funds if necessary, but hopefully they will be able to communicate with those African countries where they want to introduce legislation that goes in the wrong way to help them prevent introducing such legislation. You know, African leaders, I'm already happy when some African leaders are willing to say, I don't want the state to intervene in what happens in a household or what happens in a bedroom. That's up to people, a private decision. That's already a good start. And African leaders who take that position, I will try and seduce into helping us promoting gay rights in other African states. But here, I think the struggle is also inspired by the fact that gay rights are increasing, LGBT acceptance is increasing across the world, and this leads to resistance where this is not yet the case. But if I look globally, if I look especially at Europe, North America, obviously, but also Latin America. Wow, the trailblazers in Latin America. Who would have thought that? I think we have cause to be optimistic, but we're a long way of having won this fight. And my plea to you is today, when we do things wrong, when we're not in the right position, when we make mistakes, when we need to do more or things better, tell us immediately, please. When we can be of assistance to you in your workplace, in your companies, in your organizations, tell us and we'll gladly do that. But let's make a commitment, you to me and me to you, that we will never rest until the emancipation of the LGBT community is completed. We will never rest until there is no need to continue to fight this fight. And we will, once this fight is won, we will maintain these levels so that my children who have no inhibitions will have children who would not even have thoughts about this. Thank you very much.